especially when it comes to what you see in the chain gang and the violence and the chaos. I mean, it's an everyday, regular situation to where people are getting robbed, people are getting stabbed, people, can get killed, just hostility, people being taken advantage of, people being like sexually abused, the drug addiction, all the fights, gang wars, and like I say all the time, like it's not like absolutely insane every single day, but nah, there's something always going down every day, and it's definitely hostile, it's chaotic, it's violent, and the atmosphere is definitely not friendly. So when you see so much stuff on a regular basis, day in and day out, year after year, year after year, you get used to it. It's different. Like, of course, when you first go to prison, you see someone get stabbed for the first time. It's like, dang, like that's crazy. Or like, somebody and they got killed, or somebody and they died, from smoking dope, and it's like, dang. But as time progresses and you continue to do years in prison, that's the norm, and you get used to it. And a story that always comes to my mind is there was this dude, and I was in an open bay dorm. He slept right next to me. And, as I say all the time in the chain game, man, everybody knows everything. Just because, like, yo, especially if you're open bay or just even if you're in a two-man cell, like, yo, people watch each other. People are very observant, you know. And don't get me wrong, you want to stay in your own lane. You don't want to be in other people's business, but means of survival, just being aware of your surroundings. And even when it comes to like criminal cases, I mean? The people like are known snitches in their city, what I mean? Like that's gonna be put on blast on the compound, especially people who have sexual charges, what I mean? Like child molesters in the chain gang, they're known as chomos, sexual predators, especially people with those type of crimes. A lot of times, man, before they even get on the bus, what I mean? Like the gangs got like, all their names written down, what I mean? And what bunk they're going to. You know what I mean? Like they're pulling up in extortion time. So everybody knows, everybody's business, especially when it comes to like red flags like that. So there was a dude who slept right next to me in Open Bay. And he was a good dude, man. He was about my age, young kid. And but I knew he had a sex crime, and obviously, wanting to show him as well as everybody the love of Christ, I didn't, condemn him or treat him differently. Of course, I got kids. It hits home to me. Um, but obviously in prison, who you associate with, can kind of, give people a certain perception of you. So yeah, we talked, we built, especially because he slept next to me, but he was Jehovah's Witness. So a lot of times I share the gospel with him, and we would have spiritual debates, and I would definitely, defend the deity of Jesus and try to explain to him in scripture that Jesus is God and things like that. But there was a lot of gang members in my dorm, and there was a specific set, and I was really close with the head of the set, and he was in the dorm with me. And there was another member of the same set, and he was, he kept violating us, doing certain things that, they weren't approving of. So they gave dude the option, like, yo, you got to get from around here. Like, you got to get off the pound. They were telling that to, their brother. And I kind of knew about the situation just because, like the head was my homie. So I knew that, this dude who they were Xing out, they weren't really Xing him out of the game, but he had to get off the pound. They were making him leave. I knew that he was going to probably crash out because a lot of the gang members or anybody who has, a lot of pride in prison, if they want to get off the compound, if they want to get sent to another prison, like people can do that when they check in. Like they go to the police like, yo, I'm trying to check in, like PC, protective custody. All right, but that's a huge stain on your face. You know what I mean? Because prison, even though like in the state of Florida, there's a million prisons. I don't know how many there are. Probably like maybe like 60 or something like that. But even though you can do years and years and years, or you can do a life sentence and not go to all the prisons, but still people are always getting transferred. So your reputation is your everything. Just like in the streets, like your face is your everything. Your word is your everything. So you want to keep a clean face in the chain gang. So what a lot of guys do, who want to keep a clean face and, they're just, proud. They refuse to check in, to get out the pound. Some people do. A lot of people do. for whatever reason, whether they're really in some conflict and they're scared and they're trying to get off the pound, or sometimes people just go and they lie. You know what I mean? They got to snitch when they go to confinement, and they got to like lie on somebody and say like this person or this gang, they're after me or whatever. Like people have to do that to get transferred, under like protective custody. So that's why a lot of people don't go that route, which unless, they're on that type of time, but a lot of, guys who are trying to keep a, good face and got a lot of pride and refuse to like check in, they'll crash out to get off the pound. Either they'll like stab somebody in a really crazy way, like, to where like, administration is not, don't get me wrong, sometimes there's a lot of stabbings and they'll keep you on the same pound. They'll put you in the same dorm. After you do your confinement time, they'll put you in the same dorm and the guy you stabbed. They'll put both y'all in the same exact dorm. It all depends what prison you at, what administration's working. So it's never like a formula that they follow, man. Sometimes they don't even care. You can stab this dude and y'all both go to confinement for however many days, 60, 90 days, 120, whatever. And whenever y'all both get out of confinement, they put y'all right back in the same dorm and they want y'all to go at it again till one of y'all kill each other. The administration won't even care. But sometimes, somebody will stab somebody and they'll transfer them out of there. Emergency transfer, or they're like, all right, we don't want you on our pound. You're causing too much chaos, so they transfer you. So this guy, who's in the set, and the head of the gang is telling him like, yo, you got to get off the pound. So he's not going to check in. So he decides that he's going to crash out, which most people knew, like he ain't going to check in. He's going to crash out somehow. He's going to crash somebody. So he used to always kind of bully the guy who slept next to me, obviously, because that's a huge thing in prison. Anybody with anyone who is a sex offender, has sex cases, like, you got a target on your head. They're prey, they're shark bait, either being extorted or just taken advantage of sexually, slapped around, you know what I mean, getting their stuff taken, robbed, you know what I mean. They'll be humiliating those guys and just torturing. Some people, man, that's how they do time. They just torture chomos. That's just what they do. You know what I mean? They get off on it. You know what I mean? They just be torturing those guys. So that's just how they do time. So the gangbanger who had to get off the pound, like he used to always kind of like shoot at the guy who slept next to me. But he was a big dude, even though he had a sex case. Like he was pretty big. So it's probably like 2:00 in the morning, 3:00 in the morning. Keep in mind, this is open bay. So like in open bay, they probably got maybe like 60, maybe not 60, maybe like 40, 45 single bunks, maybe more than I forget, single racks, next to each other. And you got maybe like 2-3 feet from the rack next to you. So laying on my bunk, I can lay over and hit the bunk next to me. You know what I mean? The guy sleeping next to me, or this side, or even the guy who's like at my head, I can just tap him right here from behind me because they're sleeping like this. So I'm sleeping on my bunk 2-3 o'clock in the morning. And all of a sudden, I just hear screaming. And it's right next to me. So I jump up and I look over, and it's this dude, who gangbangs, who got to get off the pound. He's just standing over top of the dude sleeping next to me, the sex offender. Bam, bam, bam. Hitting him while he was sleeping, so obviously he woke up. So he just took off him when he's sleeping. Bam, he drops to the ground. He's just standing over top of him and just pummeling this guy and just hitting him time and time. I'm talking about nonstop, no exaggeration. This dude's probably on top of him for a good maybe 3 to 4 minutes, just nonstop teeing off on this dude. And the dude who's getting hit, he's just curled up and he's screaming. And the guy's just taking off on him as hard as he can, just teeing away until finally the police and the bubble notice. They come running out, and he still won't stop. They're trying to rip him off. He's still hitting them. They spray him, and they take him to confinement. So me, personally, I'm not, especially in the chain gang, bro, like you can't get in other people's business, especially when it comes to conflict, when it comes to, situations like that, just because all of a sudden you're going to adopt or you're going to enter into a conflict that's not even your own. So especially me being like, a follower of Jesus, I want to do the right thing. And even though this guy, has a sex charge and is labeled a chomo on the chain gang, in which a lot of people say, man, he deserves that, part of me kind of wanted to like pull this guy back from it, because he's devouring this dude. It's like he just ain't hit him a couple. He's breaking this dude's face in. And, it's terrible to see, so part of you wants to like pull him back, like, dang, bro, you know what I mean? Like Like he had enough, you know what I mean? Because he's just trying to get off the pound. But you can't. But anyways, at this point in time, I was already in prison for a long time. So that's just like an internal thought process you have in the moment. But really, it's like, man, that's just like, that's whatever. That's not how I'm feeling inside. It's like, dang, that's messed up. But seeing that time and time again, time and time again, time and time again, that's your norm. And the whole reason why I even brought that story up is because, as my friend said, like, yo, you can be cold. And I'm like, dang, I'm thinking to myself, like, later on, like, I don't want to be cold. You know what I mean? I want to be like, I want to be able to sympathize with people, and I feel like I do and I can, in a lot of things, but I do think at times I get to shut off. And like I was saying, as I began to reflect throughout my experience incarcerated, I think it was situations like that. You know what I mean? And that's one of a million stories, that you see first-handedly, that just make you numb, and it's like, of course you kind of feel bad, but it's like, man, you see it all the time, you get used to it, and it kind of can take away the sensitivity of emotion, or sympathy that you should have. And the whole reason why I got to that is I just think that, man, that's just a reality of being incarcerated for a long time. So, man.